By my senior year of high school, I was pretty sure I wanted to go to Texas A&M for undergrad. Just to be sure, I also wanted to drive down to College Station for a campus visit. My high school allowed us two excused absences your senior year for college visitations. I just needed the one day. Like it's an easy enough. I took a day off, went to A&M, loved it, drove home that night, and was back in school the next day. But I was called to the principal's office. Where was I yesterday? Oh, a college visit. Like, here's a form showing proof. Well, your absence was unexcused because we didn't know about it. Turns out my mom had said, I'll call in for you this morning when I left. And she didn't. She forgot to call in my absence. So I told Principal Frazier, I was like, oh, I see the issue here. So you didn't know ahead of time. My mom was supposed to call in. I should have double checked. I didn't. Okay, well, I definitely had a good excuse. But he was like, too late. You failed the protocol. You have to serve Saturday detentions. You violated the rules. I mean, I guess technically, but aren't you as a public high school principal supposed to encourage your students' interest in college, not punish them for failing the like red tape test? The answer, it turns out, is that it was more important for students to learn about bureaucracy. And honestly, I'm fine with that now. I used to be bitter at Principal Frazier, but these days I think maybe he was right, or at least I got something out of it. I mean, there is a way to do things. There are binding agreements between citizen and social service. Part of the payment for that service is that you dot your I's and cross your T's. I think ghosts, according to this week's movie Kwaidan, might be the same. You want a beautiful wife, a beautiful life? Absolutely. All you have to do is keep this one simple promise. Ghosts are very particular. You need your body protected from spirits. Heart sutras totally work. But proof your work, get an editor. You forget a single ear, the whole thing is off. When it comes to ghosts, ironically, spirit of the law doesn't count. It's only the letter of the law. Just read the fine print, uphold your end, and you'll be okay. Hi, Cecil.
Hi, Jeffrey.
It's the worst punishment you ever received in high school, like from the school.
Worst punishment. Oh dear. Oh dear, dear.
Uh-oh.
I had my diploma withheld for a while,
Uh-huh.
um, because long story short, um, um, I might or might not have gone off crazy style and yelled at a teacher like 2 days before graduation because a friend of mine was supposed to have lettered in chorus and she didn't get her letter. And me and her friends were very, very angry that she didn't get her letter at our chorus teacher. And so we yelled at the chorus teacher, and she was very befuddled and confused. And I got my diploma withheld
Wow.
for yelling at and the assistant principal's like, "What are you doing? It's like 2 days before graduation. You're graduating with honors. Come on, just get the fuck out of here. Why are you
Uh-huh.
doing this right now?" But I have a hot temper. I have a hot temper. And like, here's the thing. If like, oftentimes this is something of, like people that are mean to me, I can kind of suck it up. But if you're mean to my friends, oh,
Yeah.
furious, righteous anger comes out, and like I just sort of see red. And it was one of those instances.
Ally.
Yeah,
Yep.
vengeance, righteous
Hmm.
anger. But yeah, so I did. I think what did I have to do? I think I had to, like, I don't know, walk around the gym for 4 hours or something. I don't know,
Okay. Yeah.
something like that.
Yeah. High school's fun that way. Like when
Sure.
you have all of the energy and all of the stored up anger, but like none of the working on yourself yet.
Yeah.
But also, she should have lettered, is what I'm saying.
I mean, and there was also like, I mean, this chorus teacher, she was terrible. Like there was like literally 4 years of animosity had built up to this
Uh-huh.
moment. And it was even worse because she had taken like a year off, 2 years off, and we'd gotten a really amazing substitute course teacher. And we saw
Oh,
what it could have been if we had a teacher who actually gave a fuck.
right.
And then that got taken away, and we're like, oh no, back to this one again that actually has the job, and then just didn't do it. It was bad.
Drop out of school is what we're saying, kids.
That's it. Just don't do it.
Don't do it.
Education, teachers, hey, teachers, leave those kids alone.
That's right. Oh, I love the Beatles.
That's right.
All right, so we finally watched
Oh,
Kwaidan.
Jeffrey.
So
Okay.
exciting. This has been on our list for a long time. We've just either have never gotten to it through
Yeah,
our rolls on Wildcard. We technically didn't get to it by rolling
we did not.
Wildcard this week, but we picked a movie that in Fierce of the Dark that
Yeah. The French animation film Fears the Dark is unavailable due to copyright laws.
so thankfully to last week's guest, Robin, she was like, you guys should do Kwaidan. Just you
Yeah,
don't even have
fickle
to
hand of
re-roll,
fate. She was
just do
like, "This
it.
sounds dope." She wants to watch it. We want to watch it,
Uh-huh.
so we're watching it. Now,
Um,
Jeffrey, I have to say, this is like this movie 4 years ago. I think it was for a Night Vale thing that
mhm,
you and Jeffrey, or you and Jeffrey, you are Jeffrey, you and
mhm,
Joseph were doing, where it was like around Halloween, like we were talking, it was like for a bonus episode or like a thing we were doing
uh-huh.
for Night Vale fans, where we were got around, we like did horror movie recommendations. And
Yes.
this was one of my recommendations
Uh-huh.
because this is legit one of my favorite movies ever made. Like not just horror movies, but like this is like one of my Desert Island discs. And I know that says a lot about me. It's long, it's overly theatrical,
hmm
and super colorful.
Yeah. And it's theatrical. Yeah, but it's the stage drama of it all,
Oh
which
my
is
God.
really cool, which is really, really cool.
And
This reminded me
costumes.
my college roommate Anand, his favorite old movie, and probably his favorite movie of all time was The Ten Commandments.
Sure.
And listen, The Ten Commandments is what it is. Like it's a classic Hollywood epic. It's a bit over the top, but it
Yeah.
is I think that's a Cecil B. DeMille joint. And so, like, the
Yes. Oh yeah.
extras, the
Oh
set
my God.
design, the
Yeah.
costumes, the color of it all is
Yeah. You want
amazing.
to see your value on the screen?
Yeah.
Cecil B. DeMille.
Yes. And this movie, like, in terms of like extras, it's not quite the same Hollywood production, but for whatever they lacked in large casts of people, they made up for in just the sheer intensity of the beauty and the artistry, the like expressionism of the artistry
Yeah.
too. Like we'll get to the
Yeah.
eyes in the sky
Uh-huh.
right away.
So they shot this in an airport hangar, like an airplane hangar.
Hmm
It was literally the largest like set design in Japan. Like the largest, it was the most expensive film ever made in Japan at the time. And it was the largest set ever to date.
Uh-huh.
And you can tell, like, it is so meticulous. And what I love about it, and I think this is one of the things that, like, the impending movie Wicked is coming out. And I think, like, kind of, everybody's like, what is going on with the colors in this movie? Versus, like, why people talk about, what's happening in, like, movies now versus, like, what happened to the good old days when, like, theatricality was part of a movie. This is the movie that I point to where I'm like, sometimes the unreality of film, the surrealistic, the expressionistic, has more of an impact than like whatever it is the fuck we're doing right now. The like
Yeah.
so dark you can't even see, making you squint.
hmm
Doesn't feel dark. But you know what feels dark? Throwing blue lights over everything except for a blinding white light on a kimono.
Yeah.
That feels icy dark.
I agree wholeheartedly. And I think the naval battle in this is an anthology film,
Oh,
if you don't already know, there's
yes.
there's four short films. And Hoichi the Earless is the third one in that we will talk about the naval battle in there. When we got to that naval battle, the shifting between kind of the paintings, the
Yeah.
drawings, and then the live action, but like theatrical live action of people on these like
Yeah.
small little boats, like leaping from boat to boat and fighting with spears and swords. That was one of the most impressive, like big warfare scenes I've ever seen in
Yeah.
Hollywood. And, I think like the gold standard in modern filmmaking is going to be the opening sequence of Saving Private Ryan, right? Like that
Sure.
captured the
Yeah.
what so many people at the time in 98 talked about was like the authenticity of what the beach at
Mhm.
Normandy felt
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
looked
Yeah.
like. And so, salute you, Saving Private Ryan and Steven Spielberg. But this scene is so impressive. It's so visceral. It's so strong. It conveys
Yeah.
exactly what being in hand-to-hand combat big warfare is like without being realistic at all.
At all.
And so we get into authenticity versus realism.
Yeah.
And this felt authentic through a theatrical staging. And also I couldn't stop thinking about like the water scene that they built on this
Hmm.
studio or airport hangar, as it turns out. Impressive. Well, let's talk about this movie and the opening credits.
Oh, I
This
love it.
this movie is, as a heads up, if you haven't watched it yet and are interested in it, it is 3 hours long.
Oh, she's slow.
If you took out all of the pauses of just people walking from one place to the other, it
That's
would be
right.
a cool 90 minutes.
Oh,
However,
if you took out all the in just the shots of the interiors, it would be 45 minutes.
yes, but I will say that I think that's what makes this movie, one of the great elements of this movie is the patience that
Yeah.
it has with its subject. And it's not just patience. Patience is the wrong word. The fascination it has
Yeah.
with movement, with scenery, things like that. But I,
Um,
I was so
go
taken
ahead.
by these opening credits because it's mostly just text on a white screen. However, it cuts to shots of what look like dyed water floating in water. And we see red, like blood, in the water. We also see some like blues and purples, some really cool tones floating in the water. But there's also a black dye in the water that looks like hair. It
Yeah.
looks like strands of long black hair. Just gorgeous.
Yeah.
And that leads us to our opening, first of four, the black hair. All right. I mean, I kind of already know what this is going to be. I didn't know any of these stories going in, although they were familiar to me once they started. These are very old folk tales, Japanese folk tales, but I think have been repurposed in Western storytelling many times before.
Sure. And these are all it's your kind of so Lafcadio O'Hearn was sort of a Westerner who kind of moved to Japan and collected Japanese folktales and kind of reintroduced them
Hmm.
uh not only to Japan but to the West as well. Kind of was like the first person to sort of write a lot of these down and then say, hey, you should start collecting these. And also, hey, hey, the West, here you go.
Uh-huh.
Really fascinating. And like these are all short stories. Like I have a collection on my bookshelf, and they're like collectively, these are like 27 pages of stories.
Yeah. Yeah.
So these are not long.
No. And Lafcadio Hearn, I was really interested. He was born in Greece, moved to America, was a writer in Cincinnati and New Orleans. Wrote, it actually has a lot of publications that are stories that are based in and around New Orleans and about the town itself. And then he moved to Japan. He became a Japanese citizen. He married a
Yeah.
Japanese woman. He is not a born Japanese person.
Yeah.
But it is sort of a rarity when you think about a Westerner, like not moving to Japan, not just getting into the culture of
Like
Japan,
he
not
wasn't
just
a
learning the
tourist.
language,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
becoming a Japanese citizen.
Yeah.
Anyways, black hair. We got an old beaten down house, shitty walls. It's poor. It
Yeah.
is remote. And we have a kind of the voiceover setup of in old Kyoto, there was a young samurai who had been reduced to poverty. But he was married to a weaver, and they lived in this very modest, even below modest home.
Hmm.
But he is so broken up about his status in life because he's gone from samurai to forgotten and lower class. And he is so obsessed with reclaiming some status in the world that he says, "See ya, I'm leaving you. I gotta, I got promised to marry a different woman who is of a higher caste, and that is how I will move up in the world."
Right. Well, I was a little confused here.
Hmm.
I'm a little bit confused because I couldn't tell if he got a promise to marry a woman to move up in the world, or if he got a promise of a new job far away.
I I think it was. I assumed it was both, that he got a
Okay.
job working. I'm going to speak from a slight amount of ignorance, but a little bit of understanding from watching
Okay.
some of these like older. We've watched a few for the show, and I've watched a
Sure.
few extracurricularly that of kind of older eras in Japan. And I think probably even Europe this would apply too, that there is marriage is a thing of convenience. It is a thing of
Right.
efficiency.
Yeah.
And so the idea that that he is a samurai means he could marry into this caste
Hmm.
of people. Uh, but also he could work. And so the idea of marrying your wife off to a man who can also work and do things, I think they were tied together. I don't know if the family of this woman were the people who hired him and said, also, you'll marry my
I don't think
wife
that.
or my
Yeah. Yeah.
daughter. I
Yeah.
think it was he got
Yeah.
this job, but
And then
also
he's like, "Oh,
because,
I'm gonna marry this rich girl here
yes,
and take her with me, so that way when I arrive, I'm like, look how fancy I am,
yes,
as opposed to taking my poor weaver wife with me,
yes, yes,
which is like even worse.
right.
Which is even worse
Well,
because
and
you
the
already
job he
had a
has
wife.
isn't a great job. It's a job, so that's
Yeah.
good. But he has to move to the city for the job, and also he has to another city for that job, and also he wants to marry up in the world as
Hmm.
well. Because he ultimately is marrying this new woman for because it's very clear how wealthy her family is
Oh yes.
from their very tall hats.
Oh my gosh. That already the hats,
Uh-huh.
the clothes, amazing. Like this movie is sumptuous. Like when I say like, this is one of those like film terms that like this movie is a feast. It's a
Hmm.
feast for the eyes. And when I say this movie is the whole meal, like this movie is the whole goddamn meal.
Yeah. Yeah, one of the things about an anthology film is I've talked about this on the show before in a previous anthology type film that we covered, which is, you know, when you on these cooking competition shows when they present their dish and they're like, "I've done veal 3 ways." And oftentimes that dish fails the competition
Yeah,
because all you have to do is just you could have two perfect veal dishes in your veal 3 ways, but the if one of them is off, it kind of sours the whole
sure.
experience. And these four, this Japanese folktale 4 ways succeeds at every
Yeah.
level.
And
Well,
and the other thing about an anthology is that so this first one is very much about status
hmm.
and domesticity.
Yes.
The next one is about something very different. The next one is about something like so you get kind of a different each course of the meal is very different, which and sometimes in a normal film, you're kind of sometimes stuck in one track line.
Yeah.
You're kind of stuck in one location or you're stuck in one mode, which is what I love about anthologies. I love short stories because you're like, ooh, that was a fun one. Oh my gosh, here we are, 100 miles away in a completely different location in a completely different mood.
Yeah. Well, his new wife, like the old wife, is
Hmm.
young, is beautiful.
Hmm.
This man is marrying very beautiful women.
Yeah.
But the first wife was just a weaver, and this new wife
Yeah.
has she has like 5 or 6 like ladies in waiting attending to her
She
all the
don't
time.
do shit herself.
She does fuck all. She is
Yeah.
so bored by her wealth and by her life
Jeffrey, someday I want to be so bored that I just throw a fan down in boredom and anger.
because you're tired of playing Go.
Yeah, just throw that fan down.
Oh,
I
god
love it.
damn. So good. Also, I remember this from previous films we've watched that deal with like older eras of Japan, but the black teeth thing
Oh
is
yeah.
fascinating to me because
It's wild, isn't it?
it is super wild because to the modern eye, it's actually sort of horrifying looking.
Yeah.
Um, but it was kind of a sign of extreme beauty, right?
It
Like
was
it
a
was
sign of extreme beauty and like maybe health. Because
yeah,
they were like, you're kind of like locking in your teeth,
yes,
you know?
yeah, and you're keeping all the
Because it's like,
bad stuff out.
yeah, like lock it in with like iron and shit.
Hopefully mercury, that stuff's
Yeah,
really good, really
it'll be
protect your
fine.
body.
It'll
Yeah.
be great.
Yeah, I just wrote that she looks like a porcelain doll,
Oh my
right? Like
God.
she's her skin, everything is powdered to perfection. It
Yeah.
is everything, the round cheeks and the gentle makeup, everything about it was uh delicate. She's an item to be set on the shelf, which you get
Yeah.
the impression that that's what her family has always done with her.
Yeah. And I love the way, so, the first wife is, we only see her for a hot second.
Yeah.
And when we see her, she is begging him not to leave. She's like, I'll work my fingers to the bone.
Yes.
Just don't leave me. Like the most human, the
Yeah.
most pathetic.
And but also like patient and understanding that like, hey man, she never says this outright, but in my 21st century life, I'm watching this being like, my dude, you should try to get a job to support you and your wife. Maybe you'll have
Yeah.
kids, however you do this. But if you don't have a job, it's okay if your wife has a job
Yeah.
and she's trying her hardest. Obviously, financially, that could be a problem over time, but if you're trying, that's all it takes to be a good man. And this man is so
Can't hear it.
he's
Cannot
so
hear it.
embarrassed by the fact that he is a man without a job.
Yeah.
And so he's like, I'd rather leave my wife than disappoint her by not making money. What are
Yeah.
we doing?
Yeah. Well, and then the second wife is how she moves through space. She doesn't touch anything.
Not even the ground.
Not like barely.
Yeah.
She like the tables are set out for her. The mirror is held up for her. Like she
Mhm.
goes shopping in the little town, dusty little town that they stop at. She doesn't even like she moves around objects as if they're too dirty to touch.
Right.
Like she's kind of looking, she finds one piece of purple, the most gorgeous purple fabric you've ever seen. And
Yeah.
she's like, this, I will take this one perfect thing.
Yeah. Well, he is constantly having thoughts of his first wife. He keeps having dreams and visions of returning home to her, what that would
Mhm.
be like. There's a really great like archery on horseback competition
Yes.
that he's doing with other
Yes.
men, and he is it's kind of juxtaposed to his new wife like playing Go with ladies in waiting, and she is so bored by playing these games in the parlor, and he is so distracted playing his games on horseback.
Hmm.
So it's a really neat juxtaposition. But as the narrator tells us, he was like the that the new wife was cold and selfish. And so he spends a lot of time just kind of like doing things on his own, working on his own, playing horsey archery.
And he's reading off on his own.
He's reading, he's dreaming. Well, one night he's asleep and she comes in to wake him because like now she's like, well, okay, now that I want to, be intimate, I will lean in to kiss you. And he's like, go away. Like I'm asleep.
Literally pushes her face the fuck away.
Yes. And she smacks the shit out of him and it's like,
Yeah.
you're ungrateful. And also, the thing is, dude, like you only married me for the wealth.
Yeah.
And I know you think of your ex-wife all the time.
Yeah.
And she storms off. The attendant, one of the ladies in waiting, is like, you should go reconcile with her in her chamber. And he's like, what? So I can watch her sleep? That's your fucking job. I was like, oh,
Ooh, yikes. When you start complaining about your marriage problems to the servants,
uh-huh.
that's not good.
No. No, not at all. He basically tells the attendant, like, you know what? You know who I need to reconcile with is my first wife. So you can tell her she can go back to see her family. I don't give a shit.
Yeah. Tell her she
It,
can leave tomorrow.
yeah, we're done. So it is years later. I'm not sure what he did in the interim. The voiceover
Presumably, so
says,
he's like, I'm going to complete my job, however long
yes.
that takes. She, for second wife, fucks off back home.
Uh-huh.
He completes his job
Okay.
and he runs back to, Kyoto, I guess.
He's gonna uphold the he's gonna uphold the contract of his job, but not his
Hmm.
marriage.
Hmm.
So he returns back to his dilapidated house, which is
Yeah,
more dilapidated than it was before. His feet
sure.
are falling through floorboards, the weeds are overgrowing, but there's a light on. There's a candle lit in the bedroom. And he goes in, there she is, Cecil, spinning her wheel, just as glowing and beautiful and happy to see him as
Looks
ever.
just the same. Just the same.
Identical. The end. It all worked out. Let's go to the
Happy
second one.
ending.
And he's like, I couldn't forget your face for a moment. I deserve your scorn. I fucked this up. I was so horrible to you, and it torments me, the harm that I've done. She's like, don't punish yourself on my account. It
Yeah.
was my fault. I never felt worthy. I was the burden.
I wasn't good enough for you.
Yeah, I'm just so happy we can see each other again, even if it's just for this one moment. What?
And he's like, just for a moment. We've got a whole lifetime together, baby. We got our whole lives ahead of us.
Uh-huh.
Here, let's lay down
Let's lay down. Yeah, they talk. It kind of gives the impression that they talk all night,
all night.
and then
He's like, and
there's
he's like, I can't, I'm so happy to be back home. I couldn't possibly go to sleep.
yeah,
And it
but
kind of implies, I mean, here's the thing that I love about these, like the erotic is always just sort of boiling under the surface. It does kind of imply that they do the dirty,
yeah,
that he does it with the ghost lady.
uh-huh,
Because he's like, I'm so excited. I couldn't possibly go to sleep. What else do you do when you return home after 10 years of not seeing your perfect, beautiful wife?
uh-huh.
You're gonna fork.
You are going to fork.
And when we know how this turns out, what else is gonna drive you mad? It's not just seeing your death, it's knowing that you fucked a corpse.
Uh-huh. Corpse fucker.
But it's the 1960s, so we can't exactly show that. But
Yeah,
it's just under the surface.
yeah.
And it's also that beautiful pink kimono. That pink kimono.
The colors are so good. Yeah, the pink kimono or the pink, yeah, the pink fabric on the ground that she lays down for the bed, like the fuchsia
So
almost. Yeah, it's
erotic.
so good. But yeah, she also I love the end of the evening because we don't see them. uh, they kiss for a second, but like
Yeah,
it's not like we don't see any kind of like physical contact, nor do we hear or witness their long conversations. We get the
yeah,
impression they were up all night reconnecting
yeah.
through
And
words
he's
and
just
physicality.
stroking her long black hair.
Oh, I should mention when he first leaves, she follows him out crying, so we see her from behind. The her black hair goes down below her backs of her knees, like it
Oh
is
yeah,
to her calves.
yeah,
Well, she finally, I love this close up of her just blowing the candle out in
yeah.
darkness. And then the sun is up in the morning. Hold on. Okay, great. That's awesome traffic outside. The sun is coming up in the morning and he wakes so good with a dawning smile on his
I know.
face.
Like the sun hits his face and he's like,
Oh, what a good
ah,
day. I'm
ready to
gonna,
start
my
my
wife and
life.
I.
Second act of my life is about ready to begin.
Oh, let's see if she wants to go to the farmer's market and then
Get some
maybe we can go for
pancakes.
we could oh my God, then we could farmer's market, have a picnic, go to the
Mm-hmm.
park, a little
Yep.
hike,
Go
sit by
read
the
the
river.
newspaper,
Yes. Ooh, I'm
play
gonna make
Wordle.
reservations tonight at
Mm-hmm.
that restaurant we love. Well, he sees the black hair on the pink sheets next to him. And but something's weird. He pulls them back, and that is a rotting corpse.
Uh-oh.
Okay, let me call the doctor real fast.
Okay. Ma'am, I think you've got the corpse rot disease. And nope, nope, you're full skeleton. I'm sorry. The case is terminal.
I love that it goes from like rotted corpse, and the next time he sees it, it's a skeleton, and then the next time he sees it, it's just the hair.
That's it.
Yeah.
And then his transformation is
Yes.
just as incremental. So like he pulls back in revulsion and at first is just his hair is down, which is the like sure sign that things have gone awry in, sort of uptight, like when things go all
Uh-huh.
unhinged, like when, oh no. And then it's his face gets a little more pale. And
Yeah.
then his clothes get a little more pale. And then that wig starts to attack him. That he's fighting off a wig.
It's so good. This that wig like just like you can feel that the actor was backed against a wall and like a stagehand was just like, whoa, and threw a wig at him.
Yeah,
He like catches it and it's a little Bruce Campbell Evil Dead 2 sort of like, oh
absolutely.
no, it's attacking me.
And it's like the
Um,
camera's like sort of twisted at an angle and he's backing his way down the hallways. The house is literally crumbling. Like
yes.
like the night before it was dilapidated. Now and what's fascinating about this is like every shot it's more and more derelict.
Yeah.
And his makeup and costume become more and more haunted.
Yes.
So
He
it's not
becomes
like,
like older and his hair is falling out and his
yeah,
face
like
is
literally
growing
at one
more
point he like
wan.
pulls out like clumps of his hair. The
Hmm.
next time we see him, his hair has become white. The
Yes.
next time we see him, he's like putting his feet through the floorboards.
Yeah.
The next time we see him, we just see his hand like reaching through the house. He kind of crawls out. His hair is like ghostly white. His face is completely old age makeup. And then the house is gone. And it's
Yes.
just like
Like a
a
wheat
like an
field,
empty
a
lot.
meadow. Yeah.
Ah, except that pink fabric, that pink quilt kimono
Uh-huh.
thing is still there.
And then when he looks back at it, it's not a pink moto. It is just the black hair. And it fucking attacks him. Whoop, right around the neck and face. The end. Yeah. Yeah. Marriage is an agreement, y'all.
That's it. I read an essay about this film, and it kind of it said especially like one of the connect this essay has kind of said the connecting theme between these four films was contracts being broken.
Yeah. Totally.
And this
Yeah,
first one was the
absolutely.
contract of marriage. The next one is the contract between the sort of the spirit world
Uh-huh.
and the natural world.
Yeah. Yeah, it is all contracts. You're absolutely right. I started watching yesterday this I didn't get all the way through it, but there's a documentary on Shudder right now called The J Horror Virus.
Oh yeah.
Which is really interesting. So I got about halfway through yesterday before I had to stop and do the other things, but I'll look forward to watching the rest of it today or tomorrow. And but yeah, they do talk not necessarily about this film, but about these kind of folk horror movies
Mhm.
of a certain era in Japan and telling these stories of not just like the classic trope of the black-haired
Long black
woman
hair
in
and the
white,
face. I mean, that is what J horror is kind of based on, right?
but also about the relationship in horror between men and women, and that it
Mm.
very often these ghosts, these yokai, things like that, are very often depicted as wailing women or
Yeah.
women who are mad about some shit.
Hmm.
And which they interview a woman in this documentary, and she's saying, they're just Japan for a very long time has a very, very intensely male dominated culture,
Yeah.
very intensely male dominated. And so there is something about maybe men's guilt, but from the woman's point of view, it's a lot of these movies are depicting how women only in death can express how they finally feel
I
about a
mean,
thing.
it's like when the long black hair becomes a long black veil.
Yeah.
Like it's, I
Yes.
mean, the Western equivalent is like kind of the banshee, the
Uh-huh.
wailing woman out on the kind of the Irish banshee that wails and wails out on
Yeah.
the moors,
Yes.
you know?
Yeah. La Llorona as well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, let's get to the Woman of the Snow.
Okay, so if the first one was very much like domestic strife,
Hmm.
this pure fairy tale. And I am fucking here for it.
It's so because that first one, the black hair, is not like hyper realism. It's not kitchen sink realism, but it is played and shown pretty directly. It
Yeah,
does look like a
it's about real life.
it looks as realistic as when we watched Onibaba or when I
Yeah.
watched Kuroneko or whatever. It's got some supernatural elements, it's got some staginess, but it feels real. This one, the two men at the start of this are woodcutters, which is the most
Uh-huh.
fairy tale job to
I
have.
know, I love it. There was an old woodcutter who lived. There was a young woodcutter and an old
In
woodcutter
us, and
trapped
they
in
were,
a blizzard.
yep. And
Okay.
the set is so clearly
Oh
a
my God, I
sound stage.
fucking love it.
And three, the skies in this one. The sky, the way it changes colors, the way the
Yeah.
eyes appear. There are eyes in the sky constantly.
Like, which isn't like it's one of those things. I don't know, like who came up with this idea, but when you think of the winter sky, like when you look up the sky on a cold, clear winter night and the stars look like eyes,
Uh-huh.
and they're like, well, let's just paint eyes in the sky.
Yeah.
But then you also think about, and what I was struck by upon watching this time upon watching this film is how environment and landscape change in this film due to the supernatural.
Yeah.
So in the first one, it's all about the house, how, one minute the house is warm and inviting just due to a candle, and then all of a sudden it is old and crumbling. In
Yes.
this one, how it's the snow is tumbling down, the wind, it's winter, and then in an instant, the young woodcutter is all of a sudden it's very still and the eyes come out and he's in almost like a little bubble outside of time.
Mm-hmm.
It's not snowing anymore, but
No.
the eye it's like he's in fairyland.
Yes.
It's inexplicable.
It is. It doesn't the all of these pieces, or at least these first two, you get a voiceover that kind of sets up what's happening, and then the voiceover leaves you for a long time. And every
Yeah.
now and then it'll jump back in to clarify what's going on. But this one, yes, this opening sequence, it doesn't explain a whole lot. It is just it's confusing, but in a way that feels intentional and full, I was very satisfying. But this is Mosaku and Minokichi, and Mosaku is the older man. Minokichi is the young man who has been an apprentice since late childhood with the older woodcutter. And of course, they're trapped in this huge snowstorm. They're trying to get across the river, but the boatman has already gone because of the storm. So there's no boat, and they clearly cannot cross the river in these conditions. So they hide in the boathouse by the river.
And they can't really build a fire,
No,
but they're just sort of huddled inside this boathouse and they're just sort of like trying to survive the night.
yes. But then in the middle of the night, the young man, Minokichi, wakes up to see a woman in a white robe bent over, standing, but bent over the old man. And she crouches low and just blows into his face.
She blows white smoke,
Uh-huh.
and his entire face just frosts over.
Yeah.
Snow ghost. You got a snow ghost.
And then she turns on him and she smiles and she's beautiful but frightening. And
Everything is blue. Like
yes.
everything is blue, like saturated with blue light, except
Hmm.
for her white kimono.
Yes.
And she turns on him and she is smiling and not in a good way.
No. And she leans close to him and looks at him for a long time and then finally says, I intend to do to you what I did to him, but I pity you because you're so young and you're also very handsome. You're a cute boy. And so here's the thing. Here's the agreement. I agree to not harm you, but you must never, ever tell anyone what you have just seen. Not even your mother, not even the closest person in your life.
Never, ever tell.
If you do tell, I will know of it
I'll know.
because look at me.
Well,
I'm
I'm
a
a
fucking
fucking
supernatural
right.
snow ghost and I will kill you. And the door opens and she fucking just
Oh my God, I
glides
love it.
out. Um, to be able to move out of a room like this,
Oh my God.
the, I was just thinking about last week when we covered scanners and you talked about like the gay iconography of being able to just give such a withering stare to someone
Yeah.
that they that they collapse in a seizure.
Yeah.
And I think this is iconic
To
the way
glide out of a room. Oh yeah.
amazing. So, uh when you talk about the changing landscape, we see that it's a warmer day now. It must be the next day after the storm. It's still snow everywhere, but the sun is out. The boatman has returned and he finds Mosaku's frozen body. And, Kichi's body as well, who has, as we will hear from Kichi's mother, who spends a year bringing him back to health, that he looked like he had no blood left in his veins.
Yeah. I love the kind of like parallel to like vampirism that like kind of
Yes.
like they're like snow ghost is kind of what the word is, but like the Western equivalent is more of like snow vampire. Gorgeous.
So a year passes and dude's got a
Nurses.
great mom. This
Yeah.
man's life, this really horrifying thing happened to him, but it sounds like this guy's doing awesome because he is
Like nurses him
young,
back to
handsome,
health.
fit, he's good at his job. But even when he couldn't work for a year, he's got a mom who's like, I will make you porridge and I will go out and chop wood
Yeah.
so that we can keep making money.
Because that's how it works when you're a
Yeah.
poor woodcutter.
Yeah.
You got to work to survive.
A year passes. Minakichi gets better. He returns to wood cutting. There's the scene of him chopping down this tree. This
Oh
is a
my
good
God,
like
like the
three
color of
minutes
that
long.
orange,
Yes, of the
it's
sky.
like it's like sherbet. Like the next few scenes are like the color of like the most vanilla sky sherbet colored orange yellow sunsets.
It's all golden hour
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
It's stunning. And he chops down a tree. It's such a satisfying just visual of this tree following the overhead shot of it. And on his way back home after work, he meets a beautiful young woman named Yuki.
Oh, Yuki.
Yeah, that's so nice. Um,
And
which
she's all
is
alone in the world.
which
She's on
is
her way to the big city. She doesn't have any relatives, and I think her parents, she said her parents have died.
uh-huh.
But she's trying to go to the big city, and she doesn't really know anybody, and she doesn't really have any prospects, but she has high hopes.
Uh-huh.
But she's just got a cute little pink bow, and she's just hoping for the best.
Yeah. I believe that so this is Yukiona is the name of the snow witch. I believe that Yuki means snow in
Uh-huh.
Japanese.
Which you might maybe piece that together.
And
Especially after they have kids and she's like teaching them all the snow songs. I was like, did you catch that? She's like,
yeah.
you're only teaching kids the snow songs, right?
Basically, I just want to say that like this snow woman, this Yukiona, this snow witch or whatever, she's totally grooming this boy
I
because he
know.
is really cute. And
Yeah.
and yeah, I don't know, it's really interesting how this plays out. I found this such a fascinating story here. So she's going to Edo trying to just find a job, but like you need a
Mhm.
sponsor to get a job, and she doesn't really have a family. Would your grandparents actually be able to sponsor you? And he was like, it would honestly just be easier if you were married. She's like, are you married?
It's like, oh, I'm me? No, I'm not. Well, maybe someday.
And he's like, you can stay at my house. My mom is here, which is a great thing to say. Like, just letting
Yeah.
you know, there's another woman here. You can
Stay the
stay.
night, please. It would be our pleasure.
Yeah. And then the next day they're out and they're like chasing each other through the fields and flirty, and pretty soon
Well,
titties are out.
oh my God. Well, I mean, we have to talk about the foot washing.
Oh yes, I'm so sorry. Yes,
There is
please.
no, because it's like, it's that thing of, it's the slow dance of like, we found this woman in a field.
Uh-huh.
We found this young girl in a field, and they're doing the like, it's a meet cute, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's very slow paced. And even like, I kind of love where they're like, they're kind of taking the little boat back to his hut, and the eyes have kind of returned to
Uh-huh.
the thing. So you know that there's something witchy, something supernatural going on as well. But they get back and mom is over the moon. She's
Yes.
like, you got to be careful out there for young girl. There's a lot of bad people, but we're good people. So you could stay here with my handsome young son as long as you like. And she's, kind of washing her feet, and young son sort of catches a glimpse of those gams.
Oh my God, look at those calves. Look at those ankles.
And but it like in a not creepy way, but he's like sort of catches himself catching
Yes.
himself. And he's like, oh, I'm,
He's
I'm so embarrassed.
he's like, I didn't mean to go full Tarantino there.
I
Sorry.
know. Oh,
Yeah.
oh, oh.
And yeah,
And then we're
they
like, bam, then they have kids.
yeah, bam, like next day chasing through the fields, titties are out, then there's a baby, then there's two more babies. Uh we you know, we have the narration from the other women of the
I
village.
love it.
So good because
We need a
they're
chorus.
gossiping. Yeah, they're the
We need a
chorus.
Greek chorus to let us know from the outside perspective.
Yeah. She
You
was a good
know,
wife. She was a good mother. She doesn't seem to age. She's
she looks
wild.
as good as the day she came. And you know what? Her mother-in-law loved her to the day she died. I have never met any mother-in-law who
Uh-huh.
loved her daughter-in-law as much
Yes.
as like that never happens,
No. And we see her taking the kids to grandmother's grave, to
right?
mother-in-law's grave.
Dedicated,
Yes.
perfect in every way, respectful, beautiful, teaches her kids all the songs about snow that she knows.
Yes. Yes. And yeah, and she stays young and beautiful throughout all of this.
Thrifty,
Hmm.
helpful,
Yeah.
all the good things.
And one night they have put the children to bed, and this married couple, they're having
They're,
such a nice time. Like they've been married for at least 10 years because I think
yeah,
that's what the oldest kid looks about 10.
yeah.
And
They're getting ready for New Year's because they're making the new slippers for the kids. And
uh-huh,
you can tell that they're still
really
the
in
first,
love.
if the first story was all about moving up and down station in life, this one, the love is there, constant. The station is constant. It's about the enrichment of that love. They're
Yeah.
not moving up and down station. They're still poor woodcutters, but you get the impression that their life is so full.
Yes.
Like they're having a great old time. Like she's like, oh, I'm gonna, like we're gonna have a poor Christmas this year. But you know what? I'm gonna take some of this old stuff and I'm gonna repurpose it, and the
Yeah.
kids are gonna have a great time.
Yeah.
We're thrifty, but it's a hard candy Christmas, y'all. You know?
Yeah. Hopefully no one fucks it up by breaking an ancient promise or an old
Uh-oh.
promise. Well, it's so beautiful. So she's making new clothes out of old
Yeah.
clothes and fabric for the kids, and he has made new sandals out of straw for the kids, and he made a new pair of sandals for her. And the kids' sandals are all have the blue thong,
Mm,
the blue laced
cute.
thong, and hers has the red lace thong. And she's like,
She's like,
"Why
this is
red?" And he's
rather.
like, "Because it look you love red, and you're still so young. You
She's
should
like,
still
this is
wear red."
like this is like the sexy, really?
Yeah.
Still you find me attractive after all these years?
So sweet. And they're a perfect fit. And he's like, I don't know how to make clothes like you do, but I can make sandals, and I'm very happy to contribute that. And she's like, oh my God, yeah, once I finish these clothes, these kids are going to have an amazing New Year's. And he's like looking up at her, like he's laying on the floor and she's sitting up, and he's looking up into her face, and the light shifts blue. And he has this memory of seeing the Yuki Onna hunched over him that night in the boathouse.
I love the framing of it. Like the light is amazing and the framing. So he's like, there's one of these like candle holders that
Hmm.
kind of splits the frame, and he literally like looks to one side of it and then moves like over to the other side, kind of like getting a new perspective.
Yeah.
And it's like when you look at something from a different perspective, and he like it's like a perfect visual representation. And when he moves to the other side of that literally split frame, he sees her in a new light.
Yes. And she says, "What are you staring at?" He's
Oh,
like, "Man, yeah, you looked like." So here's the thing, hun.
I had this
Yeah, this is
weird.
wild. I hadn't even thought about this in years, but like, I've never told anyone of this. I'm not, it might have just been a dream I had, but like, and then he tells the story about the snowstorm and about this snow woman, this woman in white who was in the boathouse, and how she promised not to, you know,
It
kill
was
him
the
because he,
night that the old woodcutter died, and
yeah,
this
and
this 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 like snow witch, snow ghost came and like sucked all the blood out of him and blew frost on him. And
yeah. And I don't know, I just thought about it because looking up at you reminded me, and it just clicked a thing in my brain. Ha ha ha, memory, it's so weird what triggers a memory, you know? And and he's like, oh, also he's like, anyways, that's what I was thinking about. I should get some sleep. Good night, hon.
I
And
know.
she is like staring daggers at him,
Yeah.
which I really love because it implies to me that she did not entrap him. She wasn't
No.
testing him. She legitimately
No.
was like in love with him,
Yeah.
was getting to live this life with a good man, beautiful children, a lovely village. She was getting to live as a human in a perfect human world. And he went and violated the terms and conditions.
Yeah.
And he tries to laugh it off, and she's like, yeah,
It wasn't a dream.
no, that was me. And the light turns blue again.
And the snows out of nowhere blows, and there's like the icicles start forming on everything inside,
Yes.
and that weird like crackly noise.
Yeah, there's like a crackly noise through that was in the first story too. There's like
Yeah.
cracking
Yeah,
noises
in the first one, it's
outside.
the sound of like wood breaking.
Yes.
In this one, it's that sound of like, oh, it kind of continues. And then the next one, it's there as well. It's the sound
Yeah.
of the
Hmm.
ghosts approaching.
She's so mad. You promised you would never tell a soul, and you broke that promise. And the thing is that a lot of times in a story wherein somebody breaks a promise to a genie or a god or
Mhm.
a troll or I don't whatever, to whatever fairy tale creature, they've been tested by the creature, and that creature is going to destroy them because it's like, I knew I would get you eventually.
Yeah.
But I think in this one, she's more mad at him for ruining her life. Like, you
Yeah.
ruined everyone's life here.
Yeah. She's more sad
Yeah.
and disappointed.
And she's like, you betrayed me. And then she says, she looks in on the kids, and the light changes back to a natural light on their faces asleep. She turns back and she's like, if it weren't for those kids, I would kill you right now. So here's the deal, my dude. I'm out. We're done. We can't be together, but you have to take care of the children. If they ever have the slightest complaint against you, I will know about it and I will kill you. Yoop! And she's
And then
just
she just,
gone. Bye.
yeah, I know, out the door.
And it's so sad. And also, I couldn't help but to think, what does the slightest complaint mean?
I
Because
know.
kids are going to cry about something.
Hmm.
Like, what is your. I would be like, please, wait, just one question. I just need
No,
clarification on what a
no,
complaint is.
no, because now that sword of Damocles is going to hang over his head for the
Uh-huh.
rest of his life.
Yep. That's
And
so
he's,
haunting. Yeah.
I mean, it's the why do we tell fairy tales? To teach, to warn,
Hmm.
to to teach a lesson about morality to ourselves. And this is not necessarily one that we tell to kids. This is one that we tell to parents.
Yeah.
This is the one about keeping your promises. Maybe that's what we tell the kids, but it's also about like keep your promises to your loved ones,
Yeah.
to I don't know, to creepy snow vampires that you find
Uh-huh.
in the you find in blizzards. But I love the ending shot. Like he's broken up. He's like sobbing, crying, and he takes the red sandals and he puts them in the snow and they just disappear.
Yeah.
So like she takes the slippers from him.
So sad. So, like, just ultimate
Yeah.
tragedy storytelling.
Yeah.
Let's get to
Intermission.
intermission. Let's get to Hoichi the Earless.
Oh my God.
Uh,
So
I
if
kn
that if oh my God,
Yeah,
if that last one was all surreal eyes and painted backdrops, this one opens on a shot of the ocean, like the
yeah,
actual ocean,
yes.
and probably has like the most like we actually go outside for this one a little bit.
Hmm. And Hoichi is a young blind musician who plays the biwa, which is kind of like a looks like a mandolin or a
Mhm.
guitar. But it's played with like a giant, like triangular, like
The
almost
largest guitar
palm-sized.
pick you've ever seen.
Yes. And it's very percussive the way,
Yeah,
so it's a lot of playing of chords, but of single notes and twangs, but also
like
there's a
like a slap.
thwack.
Yeah,
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 slap. And he is standing on the cliffs overlooking this ocean, and he sings about the Battle of Dano Dannoura, which was fought 700 years ago between the Genji and the Haika clans.
and it
It
was kind
was
of
the
the last
last
stand.
last stand. It was the last phase of the Genpai War, and it goes from him singing to what looks like old paintings, like
Yeah,
watercolors
yeah,
of
yeah,
these ships, of these naval battles, to then the actual like stage drama, like theatrical stage
yeah.
drama of men standing on these boats coming at each other with swords and spears and ready to
And
fight.
arrows and shit.
Yeah. But they use the theatrical staging to show so the theatrical staging gives you the literal action of the battle. The paintings, the watercolors give you the scope of the battle
Yeah,
because they
because they're saying
show,
like 3,000 ships.
yes.
And clearly we can't show 3,000 ships.
And then you have the song itself to give you the mood and the story, the actual narrative. It's so those three layers are
Yeah.
so good.
And we're also getting like into, like in much an
Hmm.
epic poetry, Iliad, Odyssey, Tale of Genji, like it's the scope, But then we also kind of zoom in on individual characters.
Yeah.
We've got this warrior who knew it was his last day, so he's going to go out in a fucking flurry of arrows. We've got this person, who, like, we've got our kind of favorite warriors that we check in on
Yeah.
who have their last moments. And
Yes.
that's going to be important because we're going to meet them again later on the other
Yes, we
side.
are. So the long and short of it is that the Genji were dominating the Haika clan.
Yep.
And the Haika clan had retreated all the way to this like last remaining cove, this last outpost. This is their Alamo, basically.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
we're just trying to protect what little we have left. And you
Yeah.
have
They've got the little baby emperor that they're trying to like
they're trying to
get him
protect the
away to somewhere.
and we have Noritsune, who is sort of the general of the Haika clan, like the lead samurai. Fire down the street or fire truck. And this is the guy who knew he didn't have much time left, but I'm gonna fucking fight. I'm gonna
Yeah.
Davy Crockett this bullshit and
Yeah.
go ape shit on these Genji motherfuckers. And he wants a piece of Yoshitsune, the leader of the Genji, the lead samurai. And Noritsune, he fights his way through everyone, stands on the prow of the front ship and throws down his sword, takes off his armor, and is like, "Come get me, big man."
Yeah.
And big man's like, soldiers just fill him with arrows.
I know.
And then they jump across and then they stab him and drown him. And the mother, the mother of
Is that Lady
Lady
Knee?
Knee,
Oh, Lady Knee is the best.
she's so good, and she's
I mean,
holding
it's
the
yeah, she's
the infant in the child emperor in her arms.
and she's like, I may be just a woman, but I'm not gonna let them take this emperor. So I'm gonna jump into this water.
Uh-huh.
There's a better life on the other side, and I urge you all to follow me. And here's the thing: none of these people speak. We're
No.
only hearing Hoichi sing the epic poem. So we're just watching still faces. And
Yes.
I mean like still. So it's kind of like watching a painting while listening to a soundtrack.
Yeah.
So it's a very removed kind of experience. And then we see her with the emperor jump into this red water with smoke over top of it. And then another attendee jumps into the water with smoke over top of it. And then another general has like a giant anchor on his back to sink. And then he jumps into the water. It's haunting.
Yes. And that is where the Haika clan met their end. And all of them died right there on that rocky shore. And many, centuries later, a, a temple was built there to console the souls of the dead samurai, the dead Haika clan that died in this cove. And then present day, we're back to Hoichi,
Oh,
who
and we
is
also
oh, sorry, go ahead.
cute side effect.
Oh,
We get
yes,
weird looking crabs
that have
that are only
faces.
found on this shore that have faces on their backs that supposedly represent the ghosts of these clans. I was like, these is this real? Because this is fucking wild. These
Um,
weird little crabs.
yes, Haika crabs are real. They actually are.
Fascinating.
Yeah, they actually are
Because
crabs
they do.
with
They look like they have like skull imprints on their backs.
yeah. And these guys are freaky fucking looking crabs because it's not just the skull imprint, it's that they're a round body with long legs, so they look like a weirdly drawn spider
Yeah.
is basically it.
It's sea spiders.
Yeah, which I guess every crab is a weirdly
Yes.
drawn spider. That they
But
are
it's
sea
like,
spiders, yeah.
yeah, but sea spiders with faces on them.
Yeah.
So good night, kids. Sleep tight.
So,
So, okay, so
yeah,
modern day
go ahead.
Hoichi, he's living in the monastery. He's kind of the lowest guy. He's the water bearer, he like the monks of the monastery have to go out one night. They've got to do a burial. because, there's like, this is kind of a haunted cove. So, like, ships, every once in a while, people die a lot here.
Yeah.
High waves, that whole thing. And, Hoichi's hanging out one night and he starts hearing this like little creepy crackly noise. And he gets really scared and
Uh-huh.
he pulls out his biwa and starts playing a few notes. And sure enough, a haunted samurai ghost appears out of nowhere.
Uh-huh.
But because he's blind, he doesn't see that it's a haunted samurai ghost. And it's like, Hoichi. Huh? Hoichi.
Yes.
He's like, hey, I'm sorry, I'm blind. I don't know everybody. Sorry, I don't know if I was being rude. And he's like, we've heard about you.
Uh-huh.
I work for a very, very, very powerful person who has heard that you're a really good bard
Uh-huh.
and you sing this one song really, really well. You're so good that you even like surpassed the person who taught you. And if you could come with me and sing for my lord, we would really appreciate it.
Yeah.
You like my lord is so powerful, you wouldn't even normally be allowed to be in his presence, but because we're just visiting from out of town, so just but you have to be quiet. Shush, shush, shush. I know it's midnight, but you just come with me. And
Yeah.
Huichi's like, well, I guess so. I mean, it's your lord's so powerful. So off
And
they go.
off they go and they get led to this big, beautiful but creepy manor.
This
The
fucking place.
when the samurai's like open the gate and the
Yeah.
doors open and it's all just fog machine and the fog clears and it's this beautiful greenery
It's and it's what's
and
fascinating to me is
fires.
that yeah, it's like pillars that go to nothing,
Yes.
that like kind of don't go into anything. And what's, because we know that these are they're sea ghosts,
Yeah.
but nothing about this says underwater gray. It's not Pirates of the Caribbean, right?
Right.
It is the other side. And so there's something very like otherworldly about it, but it's beautiful, not scary.
Right.
It's it's other plane.
Yeah.
But there and it's so and what I love about this is that, over the course of the next few nights, Hoichi, we're going to get little glimpses of this thing. And each time we go deeper and deeper. So the first time we just see the gates
Yeah.
and there's like two attendees that are like kind of take him and lead him in. And we don't go any farther than that. And we don't know what happens
Yeah.
inside. And
Well,
then it's kind of the next day. And we kind of, I actually love this because we get sort of a like the kind of the comedic relief of like
uh-huh.
what happens inside the monastery. And it's all the other sort of like doofy ghosts
Yes, yes.
of the
It's,
other people that live there.
uh this what are our boys' names? Yasuku and Matsuso are the two kind of goof other
Hmm.
attendant guys that are there that are definitely comic relief.
Hmm.
Because Hoichi is gone all night and then sleeps the whole day. And they're like, "Where'd he go?" And they're like, "Well, his sandals are here. I just think
Yeah.
he went out late at night
And then he didn't eat breakfast.
and he didn't eat breakfast, but he is here. He's just sleeping." And one of the monks is telling the head priest, like, "I don't trust that kid." Like,
Yeah. Something
it's
weird about
like,
him.
is he out there partying? Like, what's
Yeah. Yeah. Does he
happening?
have a
And
girl in town?
yeah, and Yasuku, one of the other guys that works there, like one of the comic relief, is like teasing Hoichi about
Hmm.
this. Like, oh, you get with a girl?
Hmm.
Oh, that's pretty awesome. He's like, no,
He's like,
no.
no, I just forgot something that I had to do. And I went and did it. And then I came home.
And so he's doing this every night. The samurai ghost keeps coming back and claiming him. And the samurai ghost, the second time we see him, is like, hey, you didn't tell anyone, right? No. All
No,
right, yeah,
no,
you
shouldn't.
cannot say a word about this to
Okay.
anyone.
Okay. More contracts.
Yeah, more contracts. The priest wants to know where you keep going every night. He's like, nothing.
I just had a thing that I had to do. And he's like, that's kind of weird, but you know what? Sounds like an evasive answer to me, but hey, you do you.
Yeah, and Hoichi is like, I'm gonna, you know what? I promise I will be more heedful of the hours. And I just me being careless. I'm just kind of young and silly. And Priest
Mhm.
is like, listen, you are blind, and it is dangerous just to
Yeah.
wander around at night. So
Next
just
time,
be
take
fucking
somebody with you.
careful. Yeah, yeah. Take people with you if you're going out. Which I really like the priest in this.
I know.
In that way of like, I understand. Like, we don't pay you a lot. You do your young man, but just be careful. You have friends that can go.
There's also an interesting kind of very simple, like kind of few lines of dialogue between the head priest and the assistant priest in here. In the beginning, the assistant priest is kind of asked a question, hey, do you believe in ghosts? And the
Hmm.
assistant priest has kind of said, um, those who believe in ghosts, ghosts are real. Those who don't believe in ghosts, ghosts aren't real. And he's like, oh, you with your stupid priest answers that
Uh-huh.
never mean anything. And then later, we kind of get the like, oh no, ghosts are fucking real.
Yes.
Like, and what's interesting is that, kind of in this general context of spooky ghost story storytelling, that sort of definitive answer of like, sometimes you do have to make a stand and say, you know what? Spooky shit is real. Like you can
Yeah.
kind of sit on the fence. Is it a bump in, is it a spooky sound in the woods? What could it be? I don't know. Is it a ghost? I don't know. But at a certain point, if you see a ghost, that's a ghost.
Uh-huh.
And I kind of love that practicality of like spooky things are spooky. But at a certain point, you have to go, the supernatural is real.
Yes.
Treat
Yes.
it as such. And I think as the makers of this podcast, you go, listen, if your house is haunted and you see it's haunted, don't stand there and say it's not haunted.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know?
Just have a little bit of just be a little credulous, you
Yeah.
know. Well, so it's another night. It's a dark and stormy night,
Oh,
and
yes.
Hoichi goes out again.
Why
Yasuku and
why would he go out
Matsuso
in the rain?
see
This
this,
makes no
tell the
sense.
priest. The priest is like, follow him, you
Yeah.
know, go after him then, like find out where he's going. It's so interesting because we have a lot of back and forth between what Hoichi's experience is and what these two other
Yes.
men's experiences are. Because Hoichi gets to the temple he's been going to, and it is blue skies and
Yeah.
sunny and gorgeous. And inside the temple, there's all of the Haika clan
This is amazing.
dressed beautifully, sitting up on the raised platform with the buttresses behind them, and he sits kind of on the middle center of the court, and sits down to
And he's like
play.
floating on like a raft in the middle of water. So
Yeah,
he's
that's
like
it.
not he's separated from them by water, which of course
Uh-huh.
they're all drowned.
Yeah.
So they're pretty underwater. So he's not on the same level as them. So there is that separation from them, but he's still in the presence. And
And
then this is the actual time when we see him, and they're like, play for us. And he's like, well, I've told you, the Ballad of the Haika is very, very long.
yeah, there's
There's
like 24 sections to this
a whole
piece.
lot of it. And there's what would you like to hear? And they're like, what do you, well, let's get to the battle. Yes.
The final battle of Danonura.
Yeah, that's what we want to hear. And he's
Danonura.
like, okay, here we go.
Yeah.
And again, similar to the first one in like the stages of change
Yes.
in in the long black hair, it was like the de-evolution of madness of the husband. In this, it's like every time we cut back to the court. So at first, they're kind of presented in very simple, noble robes when they're kind of presented to Hoichi. Then he starts the ballad. Then it's the heat of the battle. And then all of a sudden, there's like flames everywhere. They're in their battle gear, ready to go.
Uh-huh.
But like at the beginning of the battle,
Yeah.
the battle is raging in the ballad. And then all of a sudden, things are more like the flags are burnt. Like like we're seeing a visual representation of where the characters are in the ballad
Hmm.
in this neutral space. It's so fucking theatrical. It's so bunraku, so kabuki, and I fucking love it.
It's really great. And meanwhile, Yasuko and Matsuzo are looking for him, and in their experience, they are walking through a
A downpour.
graveyard in the rain, and they see the will o' the wisps.
Yeah.
Wills of the wisp or will of the
Will
wisps?
Will of the Wisp?
What's the plural of will o'
I
the
would say
wisp?
Will of the Wisps.
Not wills of the wisp.
I don't know.
Oh, attorneys general.
Attorneys. But they get to the base of the steps of the graveyard and they see Hoichi's cane and like walking stick and sandals.
Yeah.
And they kind of creep up the steps. And all of a sudden the rain sort of disappears.
Hmm.
Again, transformation of space. And all of a sudden they're in that sort of weird fairy tale bubble in which there's no rain and there's fog on the ground, but there's fucking will-o'-the-wisps, and they find Hoichi, but they don't see the ghosts.
No, they just see him. It is still to them, even if the rain has stopped and the fog is there and the will of the wisps are about, they still only see the graveyard
Yeah.
there.
And
And they
he's playing the biwa like he is in a
he
trance.
is shredding, is what he's
Yeah,
doing.
absolutely.
And they grab him and are like, dude, you gotta go. Like you are sitting in a graveyard playing your song and
Yeah,
you gotta go home. Like you're possessed or something. And
yeah,
he's like, no, how dare you interrupt me before this noble assembly? And they're looking around like, My dude, we're going home."
yeah.
And they drag his ass back to the temple.
One of my favorite effects is after they drag him away, it kind of gets back to the empty graveyard, and we see the ghosts and they kind of return to their ghostly forms and they're kind of back to normal. They're out of their battle drag
Uh-huh.
and they're back in their courtly drag. And then they sort of turn into the stones. They turn into the gravestones.
Yes, yes.
I fucking love it.
Well, back at the temple that next day, the priest gets the story out of him of
Yeah.
what's been going on. And the priest is like, son, you
Oh,
are marked
yeah.
because they are playing illusions on you. And if you continue to obey them, they will eventually possess you or kill you. Either way, you're going to die young in this
Because
process.
they wanted like they love the way you play. They want to drag you down to the watery depths so you can play for them forever.
Yeah, that's basically it. You're too good.
Yeah.
And so they want you for themselves, and that's going to evolve eventually killing you. So the priest is like, here's the deal, monk buddy, acolyte friend.
Hmm.
Let's you know what works is we will draw the heart sutra on his body, which is a protective text.
Yep. The words of the Buddha over
Ev-
every part of your body.
Every square inch. And what happens with the sutra is by writing that, it will make him invisible to the ghosts. Every part of the body that is covered with the sutra, they will not be able to see. Incredible.
Yeah.
Incredible. The writing on his body is so beautiful.
Yeah.
So
I
beautiful.
mean,
And my favorite thing is there's like an empty space about 2 or 3 inches wide, like a circular space that they didn't fill. But then instead of the black ink and small writing, they just do one glyph in red.
yeah, it's like he has like one on his chest, one on his back, one on the palms of his hand.
Uh-huh.
Oh, and it's like, and because we know that it's pressing, like time is of the like they put a clock on it,
Yeah.
and we kind of have like the sort of the bumbling, they're kind of ringing the bell because we know dusk is coming, and they've got to put all this writing on his body before dusk,
Yeah.
before the ghosts come, and we kind of have a you know the bumbling ghosts are kind of
Uh-huh.
hiding under their sheets because they know ghosts are going to come into the monastery that night,
Uh-huh.
and they've got to complete this very intricate task. And he's like, okay, sit here as if in meditation. The ghosts are going to come. Do not speak, do not move, do not make a sound, and you might make it out alive. But if you cry out for help, no one can help you.
Yeah. And so the samurai shows up that night, and this is, I think, probably a very easy camera trick or editing trick, but I love this because they're using like an overlay, right? So
Yeah.
in order to have the samurai who is translucent
Hmm.
and Hoichi, they've just got a stable camera and they've shot two scenes.
Yeah.
And they've laid a 40 or 50% overlay of the samurai so that he's invisible. And this is super easy because like he and Hoichi don't have to interact in this scene, but he walks around because he sees the Biwa there,
Yeah.
but he does not see
He's like,
Hoichi
huh,
there.
I see a biwa, but no biwa player.
And he walks around and Hoichi is fully opaque, fully present, and the samurai walks upstage like in the background and is translucent. And he looks back at Hoichi, and what happens is the samurai becomes solid and Hoichi becomes translucent.
I love it.
All except for his ears because they
They
forgot
forgot to
to
write
cover
the
the
text on the ears.
what a what an incredible device. It just like the camera, the editing work
Yeah.
of the film here is so good. And he walks up to the ears. He's like, huh, the biwa, the ears. Wow. All right. Well, I must at least
Why?
just take the ears back for proof that I've done my job.
Yeah.
All there were ears. So what are
Yeah,
you
that's
gonna do?
weird. Yeah. Let me just take these ears here.
This was surprisingly violent,
I know,
actually.
right? This is literally the only blood in this entire film.
Yeah.
And it seems pretty shocking.
It's very shocking because he basically, I thought he was, in my,
I thought it was going to be a blade.
I thought he was going to take the blade, he would bring it down, we would never see it, and then all
Yeah.
we would see left is Hoichi clutching
Hmm.
his head on the ground. But what we see is he picks him up by the ears with his hands. He physically tears the ears off of
Yeah.
his head. I mean, we
But
don't see, there's no like Tom Savini like tearing
no,
away
no,
a
no, no.
flesh.
And it, much like the rest of this film, the soundtrack is so important. In the most horrific, phantasmagorical moments of this film, the soundtrack is disconnected from what you're seeing. There's either no sound or there's like abstract sound.
Yeah.
So you see Hoichi like struggling not to scream,
Hmm.
and you're not hearing anything. So it's a weird disconnect. So like what in a normal horror movie would be pretty brutal to watch
Yeah.
is actually worse.
Yeah.
Like not gory, but more dramatic than anything else.
Yeah. It's just violence. Like it's just
Yeah.
somebody being physically assaulted, you
Because you
know?
know he can't scream or else
Yeah.
the ghost will know that he's attached to those ears.
And the samurai gets his ears, and the last thing we see is of this scene is like Hoichi on the ground clutching both sides of his head and blood just pouring out of
Yeah.
down his arms and hands. And the next morning, the priests and monks and whoever else they find bloody footprints across the courtyard, and uh they find Hoichi there, and the priest bandages up his head, bandages up his ears. The priest says we were careless, no matter, you know, but we can apologize all we want for how careless we were to not cover his ears, but it won't make his ears grow back. All we
Yeah.
can do is move forward.
Yeah.
Because the thing is, if we flip this to look at roses and thorns here,
Right.
roses, he traded his ears for his life.
He lost his ears, but he didn't get dragged down to a watery grave
Yep.
by a bunch of pirate ghosts.
and
So,
we won't see those spirits anymore.
silver lining,
However, this is really intriguing because then the lord of that province or wherever
like, yeah,
they're living
prefecture or whatever. Yeah.
of the of the county. I don't know
Yeah.
if we have counties here, but whatever. But the Lord shows up with his whole the real Lord, not ghost, real
Not Ghost
person.
Lord from 700 years ago.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, like present day Lord and his whole like entourage show up and said, "We have heard the story of the earless Hoichi and his songs, and we think that's cool as shit and would
Yeah.
like this is like when this is like when like 30-year-old white Brooklyn hipsters discovered the chopped cheese and like suddenly we are happy to go to Dean and DeLuca and pay
Is
$12
it?
for
Is it?
well
It's
this was my read on it, which
yes.
was
Okay. Okay.
the narrative of
Yes.
Hoichi the earless gets
Yes.
out
Becomes, yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
suddenly he becomes worthwhile
Yeah.
because the legend
The
of him
legend. Yeah.
became the thing. And as you said earlier, the reason why the ghost samurai or the why the ghost clan was going to kill him was not because they hated him, not because they were mad
No,
at him, because
because he was
they
so good.
they wanted to keep him for themselves. And I just had a different I don't know what we were doing what the filmmakers or the original what Lafcadio Hearn was saying in the original story, however it is, but in a way he's still trapped. There's a
Oh, yeah.
message that he is rewarded for his sacrifice, and that is good. However,
Yes.
the last shots we see are the money and gifts flowing into him and the temple, and he became wealthy and famous, is where the story leads off. And you think, good news. Like,
Yeah.
sucks that he got his ears torn off, but at least he made something of it. But I'm also like, you're also a little trapped by that. That's
Yeah.
just what you were going to. You're not going to be in a. You're going to just be performing this song for the rest of your life.
Yeah. That's the
That's who
thing.
you
You're
are.
now the legend of Hoichi the Earless is now throughout the thing, and that's what you're known for.
And it doesn't matter if you're dead or alive, you're still going to be doing the song. And they say, the monk tells him, you can tell them no.
Yeah.
You do not have to do this. We don't need the money. You don't need the money. I want you to be happy. And he says, no, as long as I can play the song for the lost souls, I will, even if I do so with bitter hatred.
Yeah. He's like, I will never stop playing because this is what I love to do.
Yeah.
I also love one of the comedic reliefs. They're like, oh my God, the Lord just showed up. He's got a bunch of it's crazy. I don't even know the difference between ghosts and real lords anymore.
Yes. Yes.
So that weird blend of like, does it even matter? Does
Uh,
it even matter? You're serving the ghost spirits, you're serving ghost lords, you're serving real lords. Just traded one for the other.
yeah. Yeah, that's exactly it. The end. Shall we get to our final? Very
The
short
last one.
piece. This last one is very short.
I I have mixed feelings about this one. I
Yes,
it's the most like 20th century of the pieces.
agreed. And in fact, it is
Starts in the
told
year
from the point.
1900.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's told that the narration of it is starts in 1900. It is the most 20th century. It's the most meta.
Yeah.
This feels like maybe this was Lafcadio Hearn maybe writing a story
Uh-huh.
in his early 20th century way to address the idea that there are a bunch of basic premise is there are a bunch of very old stories that get passed down that never got finished. And
What do you do with
maybe
it?
what happened to the writer? Did they get bored with it? Did they die? Did a publisher not get the final version? Did we lose pay? What happened? Well, here's my attempt, and it is told from the point of view of a writer
Hmm.
in in his office. He is
The year
writing.
1900 because we're like, "Oh, look, there's people playing outside."
Yeah,
It's not, ye olden times.
yeah. And so this writer is saying, I'd like to record one such example of a never ending or a story with no ending. Is
Yes.
the
Yeah.
opposite of a
Edwin
never.
Drood. Yeah,
Yes.
we've got an Edwin Drood
Edwin Drood,
situation here.
perfect example. And so he says it was New Year's Day. It was 220 years ago. I like the idea that it was New Year's Day which we've had recurring New
Yeah.
Year's throughout this. And also that in the present day of this writer character, it's 1900, so it's the dawn of a new century as
Oh
well for
yeah,
him.
yeah, yeah,
A lot
yeah.
of like new beginnings, a lot of fresh starts, a lot
Yeah.
of
Old
transition.
and new, old, yeah, things old, things new, kind of butting up against each other. Yeah.
So he tells this 2 century old story of Lord Nakagawa and his entourage stop off at some country estate or whatever, and there's a
Some
tea
big
house
old
there.
manor.
Yeah, and so he's got all of his attendants and guards and people
Yeah.
like that.
More
His
hats. Hats, hats, hats.
hats
Hats
galore.
for days.
Yeah, just lids as far as the eye can see. And he has an attendant. I wrote down, I think his name is Sekanai.
I
Uh,
can't remember this guy's
anyways,
name.
kind of our main
I
character
called
of
him
this,
Grumpy.
Grumpy.
He's
So
very grumpy.
Grumpy jumps out of the lineup of
Yeah.
soldiers in the
It's
courtyard for a
middle of
second.
the day. He's
There's tea. They've got like a little tea set up. Like you
yeah.
can just got bowls, or ceramic bowls. You can scoop your own tea. And he's like, I'm gonna get me some tea. So he goes over there, pours himself a cup of tea, and he looks down in this tea. This was the one, like, I startled when I saw this
Oh yeah.
because it is the face of a man in the reflection of the water, grinning and upside down
Yeah. In
and
white.
and in white.
Like clearly not grumpy,
No.
like in a different like, and he's also very young and very handsome.
Uh-huh.
And he looks, yeah, like he's got like a like shit eating grin on his face.
Absolutely. And when Grumpy kind of looks up from the bowl of tea, there's no one across from him. There's
Yeah.
the only thing in the sky is there's like a painted banner floating above the roof of one of the places. Uh, there's no clouds. Like there's nothing that could have
Yeah.
been mistaken for a man's face. He so he just pours the tea out, gets a
Like
different
weird.
bowl,
Oh, that's weird.
pours another
Uncanny.
glass of tea, looks at it, same face, but now right side up and a little closer.
Uh-huh.
And he spikes that bowl like a
I know.
touchdown
He
celebration.
gets another bowl,
Uh-huh. And
pours another cup of tea.
that face this time is like right in the camera, like, what up? And he has got the biggest grin.
And I like it's the degree, like you said, it's the
Uh-huh.
degrees of like subtle degrees of closeness of like that's so creepy. And you can see Grumpy make the decision. He's like, you know what? Fuck it. And he chugs that tea.
Uh-huh. And yeah, he chugs the tea. So impressive. What a ballsy move.
And he's like, and then gets back and goes on with the rest of his day. Later that night, and you realize he's kind of like, he's sort of he's a security guard,
Hmm.
this is a very, very military guy. So if the first three of these are super saturated in color, this one, grayscale.
Yeah.
This one's all about shadow play.
Uh-huh.
Like their uniforms are gray. This manor they're staying at is all gray. It is all about shadows.
Yes.
And I kind of love that.
I
It's
do too.
it's 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 very shadow puppetry.
Yes.
So he's, it's the middle of the night. He's relieved one guard. He's in this room with only this giant ticking clock that makes a shadow on the wall that
Hmm.
the negative space of that shadow really looks like a person.
Yeah.
And there's a cup of tea sitting there, and he's like, I'm kind of afraid of taking the lid off that tea, but you know what? He kind of kicks it over. He's like, fuck tea. I'm kind of off tea for a while.
Yeah, he kicks it across the room and like the glass shatters and the
And
tea
he's like,
spills.
yeah, I'm not doing tea for a minute.
And then wherever he kicked that tea, suddenly there is a man standing there, and it is the man who was in the tea. And he introduces himself as uh Hainai Shikibu.
I know, which is so weird because you're like, oh, you're a specific person.
Yeah, you have a story. There's a
Yeah.
life that you have
Like you're
led. You
not,
have a name.
yeah, like, you're not a snow ghost. You're not
Uh,
a thing. You're a somebody.
yeah. And as we'll
He's like,
realize, we don't know where or when he is from, but he does say to Grumpy, "Hey, this morning when you drank me, that caused me great harm.
Yeah,
So prepare to die.
yeah. We've met. And Grumpy's trying to play it off as like, we've never met. And he's like, oh, we've met.
Hmm. And so there is so Grumpy, second eye is like, let's go. Draws his sword, tries to attack, but he keeps disappearing. Uh Hainai keeps disappearing and reappearing somewhere else. And finally he does manage to clip him in the shoulder,
Yeah, like he lands a blow.
and the man retreats by walking through a wall.
Yeah, kind of fades back.
Uh-huh. And Grumpy is like, intruder, all hands.
Yeah, yeah,
Everyone
yeah.
runs to the courtyard where they search the whole premise, the premises, and um, they're like, we haven't found anyone. Also, are you sure you saw a person? Because no one here has ever heard that name of
And you
Hainai
said you
Shikibu.
and you said you stabbed him, but we've not found any blood
Nope.
anywhere.
And then when he reveals that the man got away by disappearing through a wall, they're like, oh,
Oh,
my dude,
you've been working
go
too long
home.
hours. Yeah, you need to sleep. You need a day off.
Day off, go home, take a day off, just chill for a bit, come back on Wednesday.
Yeah.
So
They
he
send
does.
him
He
to the nap fan room.
I love this, like, sleep on your side, knees curled up with a fan placed over your eyes.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's really cool. It's such a cool, it's a wild look. But yeah, the attendant comes in and says, here's some tea. He's like, I don't want tea.
I don't really want tea.
And then another man shows up and says, hey, so we have visitors and they wanted to talk to you specifically.
Did they say who they are?
No.
No, they didn't.
And there are three men in
I also love
cool
like
fucking
the
hats.
time it takes for him to like, because he has to pass like through again, like you said in the beginning, the amount of time we spend watching people just walk through hallways
Uh-huh.
is substantial in this film. But
Yeah.
it's important because we watch him like kind of gird his loins to like get up the nerve to go talk to whoever these mysterious guests are,
Uh-huh.
which is what builds up the expectation to let us know whatever we're about to witness is not normal.
Yeah. So he gets up to talk to them and they're like, "Hey, so we're retainers with Hainai Shikibu." And yeah, so he got hurt pretty bad is the
Yeah,
thing. He had to actually go to the hot springs to
yeah.
heal himself. He's not happy about it. We're here just to let you know he'll be back on the 16th of next month to avenge himself, so look forward to that.
Hmm.
You've been served,
Yeah, I
basically.
know. Yeah, you've been served. Absolutely.
And Grumpy is like, "Oh hell no," and he takes out his sword and is like, "Let's go."
And now
And they
we have
keep
a ghost samurai fight.
it's so good. They do the same thing where they disappear and reappear as he attacks them. And then pretty soon, they're not even there and he's swinging at them, but we can see their shadows on the
Yeah.
wall.
They also do this.
So good.
It's so good. Like they'll kind of like they'll move into frame and then they'll move away, but their shadows will remain. And
Uh-huh.
he'll like stab at the shadows, but the shadows will move. Or they do this thing where like he'll be running at the three of them, and then it'll be from the point of view where we see the spear, and it'll be the spear retreating. So it's like all the effort he's putting into it, but they're just fading. Like, oh my God, it's amazing.
Yeah. So good. And the stylization of the shadow The stylization of the shadow work here is really incredible. But there's a moment where he does manage to finally stab one.
Yeah.
And then he stabs another. And then he stabs the third. He has killed all three. And he stumbles away, much like our husband in the first movie, hair disheveled,
Yeah, he starts
kind
to
of.
laugh wildly, and you're like, okay,
Oh,
who are you actually? Wait, whose soul did you drink? Who are
uh-huh.
you actually fighting?
Yeah.
Did you imagine all this?
Yeah.
Are you starting to lose your grip on reality?
And he is cackling madly. And those three men reemerged and surround him. And he is still just laughing. Then we are back at the author's office, our 1900, our present day author, and the publisher has arrived to meet his author.
Well, the
Oh,
voiceover says
oh, yes,
this is where the story ends.
right.
And I could, what can I do? I could offer you what kind of ending could I
Uh-huh.
offer you to the ending of a story about a man who drinks another man's soul? Like what kind of,
This
you
isn't the
know?
voiceover, though. This is when the publisher arrives. This is what the author had written. And the publisher picks up the
Oh,
manuscript
okay, gotcha, gotcha,
because they
gotcha.
can't find the author. And she was
Oh,
like,
that's
he
right.
was
You're right. You're
just,
right. You're right. Right.
the secretary woman is just like, he
She's
was
like, oh, he was
here.
just here. Like he couldn't have left.
No, and I see everyone who comes and goes. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know where he could have gone. And the publisher sits at his desk, sees that he's
He's
been
like, oh, I'll
writing.
wait. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll wait. Sees that he's been writing something. He probably went to pee or have a smoke or whatever. He'll be back. He's reading through the freshly written manuscript and he reads exactly what you're saying. Like,
Yeah.
I can I can imagine several endings for the story, but I know none would satisfy you. So I actually think it's best to leave it to your imagination to pick the best ending. And you can see the publisher being like, "Oh, no, I kind of want an ending."
Yeah.
Or at least maybe I'm projecting that onto the publisher. I'm like, no,
Yeah.
you have to end your
You need
story.
to end your story.
Yes. You don't get to, it was all a dreamus
Yeah.
here.
And I also love like and he's literally says like the man who drinks the soul of another man because
Mhm.
I didn't get that.
Yeah.
Like that was never implicit, like that was never explicit in what we witnessed before in the olden days.
Yeah.
But as soon as they say what happens to a man who drinks the soul of another man?
Uh-huh.
And then all of a sudden a woman screams.
Yes. And the publisher runs out and she is screaming over she went to the water cooler. She went to the Poland Springs water
Yep.
dispenser and is the Poland Springs jug of water
Yep.
on the ground and had been pouring a glass, a bowl of water for our publisher while he waits, but she's run the fuck off. The
Yeah.
publisher looks over this giant vase or urn and also freaks out and runs away. And then we get to see what's in there, and it is that author floating, not floating, like he's like it's like his reflection in the water surface.
I don't love this.
No.
This is like, I think this is unintentionally funny just
Uh-huh.
because he's making like meow,
Yeah, he's
meow,
doing he's
like,
making biscuits.
like, oh, behave, Austin Powers hand. So this did not hold up terribly well. I think it would have been better if we just never saw, like, we know what's in there,
Yes.
but I think they kind of had to show it back in the 60s.
Yeah.
But it is kind of oh, meow.
I agree. I don't love that as the final image. I think as a standalone out of context, it's a really cool image like the look of him
Yes.
inside this water is cool, but
But it looks like he's just stuck inside a pot
it does.
versus the first time if they had shown the like kind of the way they did the reflection inside the cup of tea, if it had been his reflection
Yeah,
in the pot of water, I think it would have been more interesting.
agreed. Agreed. And
But
that
then
is
it's like
where
the last shot. Yeah, the last shot
yeah,
is just an empty cup of tea on the ground.
yeah. The end. Shall we rate this movie?
Yes, let's.
All right. If you're a horror movie squeamish, how approachable is Kwaidan? On a scale of 1 to 10, with 1 being like not at all approachable, like a Terrifier 2 or whatever, and 10 being easily approachable, like the cartoon series Over the Garden Wall. How would I rate this for horror averse people? I would say this is like a good like 9 out of 10 cat paw meows in your jug of water. Like 9 out of 10. It's very approachable. Like as you said earlier, Cecil, like there's only one real scene of like blood and violence. There's a lot of like creepy imagery, like the that black hair stuff is really spooky, but it's very stagey. It's this movie is haunting. It's spooky. It is like violent in its what it other than one violent scene, all of the violence is sort of like suggested to you, which makes it, it's titillating in a way, like it's not frightening.
Yeah.
So yeah, 9 out of 10. I think this is a brilliant just film, like a classic film, and I think it's beautiful cinema, beautiful filmmaking. So really worth your 3 hours, and I don't think you'll have a problem if you're horror squeamish. So that's how I would say, Cecil, to speak of this just as a horror film, how do you rate this movie?
Now, this is a tough one because as a horror film, I can hear the criticism, which is it's not scary enough.
Yes.
There's other Japanese horror films that have kind of built on the back of this. And so I think as that sort of, grandfather of that, this is sort of the grandfather. So, grandpa's maybe a little old and rusty, but grandpa's built on some really solid foundations here.
Yes.
So, if you're not looking for a super scary night, but you want to see some really gorgeous filmmaking, like if you want to film, but not necessarily a capital H horror film, I think this is an excellent choice. So, for that reason, I'm going to knock it down a few points because it's got ghosts, it's got winter vampires, it's
Yeah.
got battles, it's got ghost samurais, anything. Great. It's got long black hair that strangles people to death, but it's not very scary.
Yeah.
So I don't know, 7 out of 10 wigs.
Perfect. Well, let's figure out what movie we're going to watch next. You've got a scare die. I've got a style die. We'll roll those up, see what movie matches those two things. Cecil, on your scare die, if you roll a 1, our next movie's scare has to be an animal. 2, a contagion. 3, creepy kids. 4, alien. 5, something paranormal. Or 6, a psycho killer. What is our next movie scare?
One,
Animal.
I love animals.
Yeah, I like Animal from the Muppets. So we're gonna match up our animal scare with the style that I roll. If I roll a 1, it's got to be based on a book. 2, it's got to have a one-word title. 3, it's got to be a foreign language film. 4, it's got to be New York, New York. 5, something from the 2000s. Or 6, wild card, whatever animal scary movie we want. So what do I got here? That is a 3, foreign language animal film. We're gonna have a pretty limited selection here. So, okay, we only came up with 2 movies, but we do have our Letterboxd account. We're Random Horror 9 on Letterboxd, and you can follow us on there and see our lists of movies that how do I explain this? We put up lists based off of all the possible die roll matches, and you can go leave comments to give us ideas of other directions that we can go in. So let us say this. We have 2 movies on here. One is this was a Dutch or Danish film called
I think
Prey.
so. Yeah.
Oh, it's a Danish, I believe, because I think it is a lion on the loose in Copenhagen, or maybe it's Amsterdam, one of those two.
Come on, that sounds like fun.
That does sound like fun.
There's
I
a
would,
lion in the loose
yeah.
where lions should not be.
Yeah. And I think let's see if it comes up here. Give me 1 second here. I skip this part. I don't even need it. But the other movie that we have on here is called Chaw.
Chaw.
Chaw. This is a Korean film, a black comedy. After a man-eating boar goes on a rampage in town.
Yep. Mutant killer pig.
Uh,
I know a few of those. So that's what
so
we came up with.
that's where we're at. We have Prey,
Limited. This
not to be
this
confused with the 2022 Predator franchise film Prey,
yes.
but the Dutch or Danish film about a lion on the loose in either Amsterdam or Copenhagen. So let's look at our letterboxed and see what people had to suggest. Maybe they have some better ideas than what we had here. Cecil, what did people say?
King and Commoner recommends Genocide from 1968. Group of military personnel transporting a hydrogen bomb are left to figure out how and why a swarm of killer bugs took down their plane.
Oh, interesting.
Let's see, genocide.
Genocide is a fascinating title about bugs. Although, to this movie's credit, this is a Japanese film. To this movie's credit, it is on the Criterion Collection right now.
Okay, okay.
So it's
Yeah,
got something
a
going.
new strain of killer bees and other insects on Earth attack humans, threatening the world.
Okay. Thanks,
Cool.
King and Commoner. I like that.
Zeph Moon Garden recommends Hatching from 2022. Tinja is a 12-year-old gymnast who's desperate to please her image-obsessed mother. After finding a wounded bird in the woods, she brings its strange egg home, nestles it in her bed, and nurtures it until it hatches. The creature that emerges soon becomes her closest friend and a living nightmare. Plunging
I know a
Tinja
few of
into,
those.
I
Closest friend
know,
and living nightmares.
plunging Tinja into a twisted reality that her mom refuses to see. From Finland.
Nice.
Hatching.
Okay. Oh, I'd forgotten about hatching. I remember seeing this on lists before.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah,
this
yeah,
looks
yeah,
really
yeah.
interesting. I'm always interested in what's going on in Finland.
This one looks interesting. Lamb from
Yes.
2021.
Good
Rural
one.
Iceland, a childless couple discover a strange and unnatural newborn in their sheep barn, and they decide to raise her as their own. But sinister forces are determined to return the creature to the wilderness that birthed her.
Nice. That's
I've
also
heard
Zeph
about
Moon
this. I
Garden.
didn't
Yeah.
realize it was about an actual lamb.
Yeah. I mean, I only gleaned that from the poster. It looks like a real actual lamb on the movie poster for it.
Okay.
But yeah, definitely lamb looks it looks weird.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. I think that was the yeah, a lot of people were like, this is a weird one.
Uh-huh. Which I'm all for.
Suspicious Beans recommends Seven Deaths in the Cat's Eyes.
Mm.
1973 Italian.
You didn't have to tell me that was Italian based off of the
I know,
title.
like with the most giallo title ever. A small Scottish village, horribly murdered bodies keep turning up,
Sure.
and suspicion falls on the residents of a nearby castle that is haunted by a curse involving a killer cat.
Fuck yeah. I'm cheering for the cat.
I hope so. Monstrum recommends Tentacles or Tentacoli. 1977, Italian horror film about a killer octopus rampaging at a seaside resort town.
All right. Well, thank you all for listening. Thank you, Cecil, for talking with me. I think we have our movie.
Oh my God, I have to look this up.
Oh, oh my God.
Oh my, I want this poster on my wall.
Yeah, this is a great poster.
Yeah, this looks like Piranha, but with an octopus.
Yes.
Tentacles. I'm just going to keep going into Italian restaurants and ordering the tentacoli. What else do we have here? Ganymede's Cup recommends The Cat from 2011, a South Korean horror film. A young woman is murdered on an elevator, and the only witness is her cat.
Okay.
Her pet groomer brings the cat home, and wild, disturbing events ensue.
Oh my
Oh
God.
my. What that
Okay.
cat do? What's that cat getting up to?
What the cat doing?
What's that cat doing? Happy Little Yarn recommends
Ver yeah.
Vermins from 2023. A low-class Parisian building becomes infested with large, gross spiders,
Oh yeah.
and
There
there
is
is some asterisk class critique.
critique.
Okay. 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 That's kind of interesting.
This was
What?
this is listed, this is on Shudder, and it is
Oh,
the English language title is Infested.
infested. Oh my. This is like, hey Jeffrey, how's your spider
Oh God.
version doing?
Horribly. Horribly. It's
Okay, this
going
looks,
bad.
yeah, okay.
That looks intense though.
Weaponized toaster seconds the cat,
Hmm.
the South Korean cat, mystery cat, and recommends Monstrum 2018 from Korea. Bloodthirsty beast on the manhunt rages through the mountainous landscapes as the plague rages in Korea during the Middle Ages. Did we
Okay.
watch Monstrum? Did we watch Monstrum? No, I think we
I
watched
don't
something
think
else.
so.
It sounds like another movie that we might have watched for Patreon.
Yeah.
And also Chaw, a cute
Oh yeah.
miller pig, mutant killer pig, wreaks havoc on a small
Yeah.
mountain town.
That's from you. Wow.
Missy Pooh, Pour, recommends Good Boy. I love
Okay.
that title.
Uh-huh.
2022 Norwegian. Sigrid hits it off with Christian, a millionaire heir she meets on a dating app, but learns that he lives with a man who acts like his pet dog. Trying to be open-minded, she continues the relationship, but soon notices an insidious undertone to him. Fascinating. Missy Pooh, I love this as like it's an animal, but it's a manimal.
Oh
I
my.
also love the title, Good Boy. I mean, like, how great
It's
is
really
that?
good. It's really good.
Maddie Parks, +1 for Vermine. Fifth Hammer,
Uh-huh.
+1 for Lamb. Ace Diamond
Oh
recommends
yeah.
Rare Exports, The Christmas Tale, which is the 2010. Foreign drilling teams near rural Finnish town accidentally unearth Santa Claus. And as it turns out, Santa Claus is not a jolly magical human, but a ravenous humanoid creature that steals children.
Uh-huh.
So, like Santa Claus, Krampus as animal. Okay, we'll
Yeah.
allow it. Absolutely. And if I remember right, Rare Export, I think I've seen this when it first came out. It was quite fun.
Yes.
Atomic Baz recommends The Animal Kingdom 2023, an adventure between a father and a son in a world where some humans have started mutating into other animal species in French,
Great.
en français.
Like it.
Uh, Tilfen 39 recommends Blood Glacier 2013. Scientists in the Alps discover a red liquid which starts to infect the wildlife.
Ooh,
You trapped on a blood glacier? What did you do?
gross.
Oh dear, Blood Glacier looks intense. Blood Glacier looks very intense. Madame Biscuit recommends Baxter, 1989, a French
Uh-huh.
horror film about a bull terrier named Baxter. He's given to an elderly woman by her daughter, but as time passes, the dog develops aggressive and murderous behavior in order to be adopted by another family. I've actually seen this film. This film is a lot of fun
Okay.
because it's kind of from the point of view of the murderous dog.
Okay.
So it's like, yeah, it's kind of fascinating. It's kind of more about like how people are terrible to animals.
Yes.
So it kind of flips the script on that one. Arcady, +1s for Lamb, and Zeph Moon Garden. Also Good Boy because dog? So like manimal?
What's
Okay,
standing
so
out to you?
this is a tough category.
Yeah.
Just because this is the thing I've noticed. Hollywood, America's obsessed with making animal movies. Other countries, not as much.
Not as much. And they feel a lot of these descriptions feel very different than a
Yeah,
Hollywood thing. Although I would say like Tentacoli feels like the most American, but it will look the
yeah,
most Italian. I'm positive of it.
yeah.
Um, okay, so a
Okay,
couple things.
yeah.
Sometimes it's about like, because most all of these really fit the brief. I would say Good Boy is probably maybe a little tough because I think it's a man
It's
playing
it's a
at
man
being,
playing a dog. That to me sounds like a more like psycho
yeah, but
kind of thing.
I wouldn't
Also,
rule it out
like
because it sounds
also
interesting,
it
but
does
there's
sound
some really
interesting.
good actual animals
And
here.
also rare exports, I might have to wipe that off the table because that's Santa Claus. That's not an animal.
Yeah, because
I want an animal.
animal versus monster or monster needs to have some
Yeah.
animal quality to it.
Yeah.
Like if like Slither is not a foreign language film, but like a movie like Slither, those are alien
Yeah.
parasite things, but they also resemble an actual animal. So I think having hatching, I don't think is I think is more cryptid, but also cool.
I mean, I
Okay.
know we just watched a Japanese movie, but Genocide looks kind of interesting. I think might be a
Yes.
little same, like it's Japanese 1960s movie, so I think that
Yep.
might wipe that one off the board.
Yeah, it's about
Um,
how far from classic Criterion collection do you want
I
to
know.
get?
I think we just hit that note. So
Yeah.
sorry. Thank you for playing.
Lamb is one I've
Vermine,
been wanting to see for a bit
Lamb,
because it
same. I've
looks
heard it's
weird.
super weird and might be interesting. I think Vermine looks dark as fuck.
hmm
But Jeffrey, I think we are
I,
you
I try to avoid spider shit as much as I
okay.
can. I don't
Fair.
know that I'm ready for immersion therapy on spiders, but
Yes,
I would do it if we had to, if we
respectful.
feel like that has to be the thing we see, but I will be mildly resistant to it.
Okay.
Um,
Oh wait, and there's one more. Wait,
I wrote
I
down,
think for me it's down to three,
okay.
and that is the cat,
Oh yeah.
lamb, and chaw.
The cat, not prey though. You because I
Oh
wasn't
shit!
what
Oh, and the prey. Oh no! Yeah, lions attacking
yeah.
people. CGI lions attacking people in Amsterdam or possibly Copenhagen.
I think for me, I was really interested in Prey just because you're the one who brought it up to me.
I
I don't
know.
know if it's going to be a good movie.
I don't think it will be, but I think that's kind of what makes it fun.
Right, right. Real quick, I need to look this up
I
of
think Prey and Shaw are going to be bad but good. I think Lamb and the Cat are going to be like dark and artsy, dark and edgy.
right. Hold on, just
Which
as
here's the thing, after watching the Criterion Spine Collection number 90,
mm-hmm.
I don't know, I'm kind of in the mood for a little like cheese fest.
Hold on, I'm sorry, real quick. I just needed to I apologize to you. What I was trying to look up. God, oh my God, there's so many Lion on the Loose movies called Prey. Sorry.
I think look up the date. That's what I did. I
It's 2016, right?
think so. Yes,
I was trying to find it on Just Watch and it was really struggling. Oh, there we go. I found the
just to
Dutch
make sure it's
title.
available.
Boy, uh, it is, and it is okay.
She's available.
Yeah. Sorry, say that again, Cecil. I apologize. I got sidetracked of like where you're feeling on this.
Well, here's the thing. Like we just watched a 3 hour long feast for the senses.
Uh-huh.
I'm kind of in the mood for a so bad it's good right now.
Yeah.
And I think Prey and Shaw kind of are the two movies that we put on I don't know.
Uh-huh.
That's kind of where I'm at.
And
Like,
tentacle.
no, I don't
Too much.
know. I don't know. Tentacoli.
Uh-huh.
Here's the thing about
Calamari.
like Lamb is that I also heard it's just weird. Some people
Yeah.
are like, eh.
Yeah.
A lot of my friends were like, it's just weird for the sake of being weird.
Yeah. Um,
I just want to watch a big giant lion tearing up, just
tearing
CGI
up
lion just tearing it up,
either
or a
Netherlands or
CGI or a
Denmark.
CGI
Or
boar tearing up
yes.
a jungle.
Um, I've pulled up Prey, which is available for streaming for rental on Apple and Amazon. It is Netherlands, so I was right that it was either Amsterdam or Copenhagen.
Uh-huh.
It is a Dutch film. Um, yeah, this looks wild. It looks funny. And yeah, we can watch a lion tear the shit out of things. I would lean towards that. I think we
Okay.
haven't done have we done a Netherlands film before? I'm sure we have.
I can't think of one.
Surely somewhere in there we did one, but it's been a bit if we have. So let's do. Oh, What was the My Wife Has Gone Missing at the Truck Stop movie?
Oh, yes.
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 Um,
The
The
Vanishing.
Vanishing. Yes. Okay, so let's do another Netherlands film. How's that sound?
Let's pray.
Prey from 2016. The Dutch title, which I do not know how to pronounce, Prooi, Prooi. That's how you can find this. So watch
Mhm.
Prey from 2016, Prooi, with us. Yeah, thank you all for listening. Thank you, Cecil, for talking with me. And if you have thoughts on Kwaidan or ideas for other movies that you would have chosen for animal meets foreign language film, let us know on Instagram or Patreon at Random Horror 9. We have public discussion threads on our Patreon, and you don't have to be a paying member to participate in those. So watch Prey 2016 with us this week, and come on back next Tuesday for a new episode. Have a restful night with no like smug assholes in your ginger tea or nothing. Boo.
Boo.